thank you so much. I am very blessed to know these women and just the relationship that we've formed. You know, when you find people who they think the same way you do, you know. It was like when I was in chiropractic school, you're surrounded by everyone who thinks like you do. And then you get out in the real world and you're finding that your ideas, people look at you like you have two heads. And so when you find a community like this that thinks the same way you do, you want to be in their company and you want to continue to share ideas. So very blessed to have met Bridget Camellia, and I thoroughly enjoy being here, every month, and the work that they do and the relationship that we have. I also want to thank my wife who's here, who puts up with all my stuff at home. The other night, my daughter was like, I was talking about, I have to, I've got my window where I have to eat, and I have to stop eating. My daughter is like, what is going on? And Janet says, Daddy read a new book. So I'm very passionate about health. I love chiropractic, but chiropractic is one piece of a puzzle. Nutrition and other things are other pieces of the puzzle, as we know, and exercise. And so I'm just very passionate about health. And so I love, just learning new things and reading things about that. And I'm kind of one that once I read something and if this makes logical sense to me, I jump in. I jump in with both feet. I don't start, well, maybe I'll start it, in a bit. So anyway, I'm very, very excited to give this presentation. It's something I've been kind of wanting to do for a while, something that's been on my mind a lot. I mean, no, I don't have, weight issues, thankfully, or a lot of health issues. I do, pay close attention to, what I put in my body and, exercising, and I get adjusted regularly and, and all that stuff. But this kind of stuff, when I came across it, it was just very, very interesting. And so, I'm always kind of looking to, as I, keep getting older and, Father Time keeps marching on, I'm always looking for ways where I can, it's not just about looking good, but it's not just about longevity either, but it's about, not the amount of years in your life, but the amount of life in your years. So, I really look forward to being able to be, a grandfather and a great-grandfather and being able to actually, interact and play, with my grandkids and do things that I want to do and not be restricted by any kind of, disease or, chronic illness or anything like that. So, anything? So, okay. So I time this. Timing is everything, as we'll learn. So this is what we're getting into when we talk about intermittent fasting and something else that's called time-restricted eating. And there's some confusion as to what those are. Well, what's fasting, intermittent fasting, and time-restricted eating, and what is this? And so we'll get into what those mean, and circadian rhythm, which probably everyone has heard of circadian rhythm, but actually what it means and how it applies to this. You may go on. Okay, so these are my references. These books here, I highly, highly encourage you to pick these up and read them. Okay, so this is The Fast Diet by Dr. Michael Mosley and Mimi Spencer. So Michael Mosley is a medical doctor, British, and he does a lot of programs for the BBC. And then Mimi Spencer is a fashion writer, body shape writer, and things of that nature. Again, in England for like the Times and Vogue and different things like that. But they collaborated on this book. And then this is the Circadian Code. This was just published in 2018. This is Sachin Panda, PhD, at the Salk Institute. And this is the Circadian Code. This is probably the best book I've read in a decade. Maybe I don't read enough. But in any event, it was just for me, right? For me, everybody's different, but for me, this was just fascinating. And I just didn't want to, put it down. And so there's a lot of information in here. I tried to do the best I could to consolidate it down into a digestible, pun intended, presentation, but I know I'm going to leave some stuff out. So I would encourage you to, to pick this up. Okay, so let's do some definitions. So types of fasting. Time-restricted eating is where all your meals are eaten in an 8 to 12-hour window. So that's called time-restricted eating, or TRE. Intermittent fasting, or IF, is where you intermittently fast. It could be 1 day a week. It's typically like 24 hours. It could be 1 day a week. It could be 2 days a week. It could be an every other day fast. It varies. But what they do in this book, in the fast diet, is a 5-2, where 5 days out of the week you eat normally, and then 2 days out of the week you fast. But it's not a complete fast, as you'll see. Periodic fasting is where you fast for at least 4 consecutive days, and this is done anywhere from once a month to once or twice a year. And that's typically done, under supervision. Okay, so fasting is an ancient idea, but we've kind of put a modern spin on it. So fasting is nothing new. Our body is actually designed to fast. Times in our ancestry and our history, times of feast and famine were regular. So intermittent fasting and this time-restricted eating kind of go along and mimic our history. Fasting, we've probably heard about it, it's biblical, it's faith-based, so there are different, religions incorporate fasting. And then scientists are only just beginning to discover and prove how powerful a tool it can be, and fasting is not just for weight loss. Okay, so diets don't work. We're probably all familiar with that. It's whatever is the rage at the time. Right now, it's keto. There you go. Yeah, see, you can tell me. But before that, before keto, it was paleo, right. And then before that, it was a whole bunch, right? There's Atkins, there was South Beach, there was all these different things. Eat right for your type. Yeah, grapefruit diet or whatever, So what they found is that diets don't work because they're just too restrictive or they're too radical, and people they will not stick with it. And so all the research shows that when people diet, they end up stopping and then they end up gaining all their weight back or even more. So intermittent fasting offers the benefits of calorie restriction, but without the pain, as you're only eating fewer calories some of the time. Okay, so the 5-2 plan is meant to be a lifestyle. It's not just what we eat, it's when we eat it, and we'll learn more about that. There are no complicated rules. Okay, it's a flexible, user-friendly strategy. There's no daily calorie control. You won't starve on any given day. I guess that's, relative up for debate, but you won't starve on any given day. You can still enjoy the foods you love most of the time. Once the weight is off, sticking to the basic program means the weight stays off. And weight loss is only one benefit. The real payoff is cutting the risk of a lot of different types of diseases. And again, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Okay, so the science of fasting. Compared to 30 years ago, we eat more snacks and larger meals. It was kind of introduced that this whole 3 meals a day, and then it was introduced where you ate smaller meals throughout the day. And then the snacking industry, the corporations came in and were like, oh yeah, here's a snack, here's a snack, here's a snack. So eating throughout the day is the norm now, or what we call grazing. Fasting helps us discover that we often eat when we don't need to. It's more of a habit. Hunger passes and you no longer fear it. It sharpens your senses and brain, not the opposite. And our bodies are incredibly adaptable. And so I put that in all caps because I'm going to refer to that later, the whole adaptability. And it's livable. It's not extremely hard to do. Okay, so that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Okay, so there's a word called hormesis. Hormesis is a process in the body that all cells do. And when you're exposed to a stress or a toxin, it toughens you up, okay? So, for example, exercise. Like when I'm in the gym and I'm working out, I'm not building up my muscle, I'm tearing it down, causing micro tears in the tissues. And then it's the growth that happens outside of the gym, right? Just like they say, abs aren't made in the gym, they're made in the kitchen.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So certain vegetables are hormetic. This was a new one to me. And I had the page I wanted to read because this blew my mind. I immediately had to tell my wife. She was standing in the room. I go, listen to this. Okay, so they found that the bitter taste is in the animal kingdom, in the plant world, is like, you know how plants produce phytochemicals? All kinds of phytochemicals, right? Well, this is one of them, that bitter taste that is like, don't eat me. I could be poisonous, right? Well, it just so happens that when we eat them, so let me back up. So when they're looking at vegetables, and they know like vegetables contain antioxidants, right? And so antioxidants they know are good for your body, but they say that we really look at it the wrong way. There's really not like the level of antioxidants in the vegetables that can do as much good as it does. So what they're looking at now is they're saying that it's a hormetic response similar to like exercise or cold exposure or fasting, in that due to it's a mild toxin, it's not enough to like poison us or, you know, do a lot of, you know, that kind of a damage, but it's a mild stressor that the body then turns on the repair and rebuild kind of cycle. So I was like, that for me was just a mind blower. So different types of hormesis. Again, fasting is a stressor. It's a mild stressor. And so it turns on repair and rebuild genes. And then cold exposure is another stressor. Okay, so that's another book I'm reading, but I had to put it down to prepare for this. Again, it was one that I didn't want to put down, and I'll probably say that's going to be the best book I've read
In a decade. So.
well, since this one. So I'm kind of in the middle of it. But anyway, it's called the book is called That Which Doesn't Kill Us, and it's all about Wim Hof. Has anyone heard of Wim Hof?
Yeah, the Iceman.
The Iceman, right? Okay. So this guy holds legit world records. He's like 58 years old now, or 59. Okay. He has run a half marathon above the Arctic Circle in nothing but his shorts. He has climbed Everest in nothing but his shorts. He trained a group of people to show that he's not a genetic super freak. He trained a group of individuals. It only took 4 days, something like that. Like it was just a few days. He trained them in a specific breathing method, visualization meditation method, and this repeated exposure to the cold. He trained a group of people. They had no mountaineering experience. They had no oxygen. They climbed Kilimanjaro in 28 hours. 28 hours. And so this investigative journalist wrote this book, and he set out to prove that he was, a charlatan until he actually did it. Yeah. So he can also, Wim Hof is doing things that they said scientifically were impossible. So he is able to tap into his autonomic nervous system, where he can actually control hormone production. He can control body heat generation. Like they've put him in tubs of ice, and his body temperature, skin temperature does not go down. He can also control his immune response. So again, put him in a lab, and they trained a bunch of individuals, and they inoculated them with an endotoxin, okay, which is like a bit of a bacteria where the body thinks there's an E. coli infection, but it's really not. So it's not going to really hurt or kill these people. But the body launches this massive immune response where headaches, fever, chills, body aches, nausea, vomiting. The control group, that's exactly what happened. And him and the group that he trained, they had a little more than a mild headache. So it's pretty fascinating. So again, it just reminds me of what the body is capable of. And it's a reminder for me as a, as a chiropractor, as a, healer, if you will, or of what the body is capable of, what the human is really capable of. And he's showing that. So it's really, really cool. So activities that are stressful are not harmful, and the challenge is part of the benefit. Okay, fasting and longevity. Okay, you may have heard of this other guy, Dr. Walter Longo. He's the director of USC's Longevity Institute. So he's been doing a lot of research on like more prolonged fasting. And he, like once every 6 months or so, he does a prolonged fast himself. So he definitely practiced what he preaches. Going without food for even short periods of time switches on repair genes. So he said, you take a person, fast them, and after 24 hours, everything is revolutionized. And even a cocktail of drugs, very potent ones, don't even come close to what fasting does. The beauty of fasting is it's all coordinated. So again, the body is able to do what man, science, any drug can do. Rats that were fasted 1 day in 4, 1 day in 3, or 1 day in 2, and the fasted rats lived longer. The more they fasted, the longer they lived. Unlike perpetually calorie-restricted rats, the fasted rats were not physically stunted. So, they maintained muscle mass and growth and everything.
They were happier too, right?
Probably, yeah. Okay, so why? Why is that? Well, apparently fasting lowers levels of what's called IGF-1, which is insulin growth factor. And IGF keeps your cells constantly active, which is really important when we're young and we're growing. And but higher levels later in life appear to be, lead to accelerated aging and cancer. Because again, cells are active, they're replicating, there's a chance for them, to go awry. So he said it's like driving with your foot on the accelerator constantly. You're driving your car and you're driving your car and you're driving your car and you never take it into the shop. So fasting is like you're, taking your car to the garage. But if you just ignored that and you just kept driving and driving and driving, well, eventually you're going to break down. Okay, so Dr. Longo's research shows better results with prolonged fasting versus intermittent fasting. But prolonged fast must be done under supervision in the proper facility. So he's doing stuff with like diabetics. And he said it's just so expensive and takes so long to get these trials done. But he's doing stuff with like diabetics where he's like reversing diabetes, right? Because again, the prolonged fasts are causing the body to, regenerate. And so he's like regenerating organs. I think it's after like 3 days, the immune system's totally reset. So, okay, so fasting and weight loss. Intermittent fasting leads to steady weight loss and not as drastic as prolonged fasting, and there's no loss in muscle mass. Alternate day fasting was also found to be too extreme. Like the authors in this book were like, I just couldn't do it, But there were some interesting results. So they took 33 obese volunteers. They did alternate day fasting. And they did it for 8 weeks. One group ate a low-fat diet and the other group ate a standard American diet. Okay, so no special diets. Should be the intermittent, one group ate low fat and that. So the one group lost approximately 9 pounds. Yeah, the low-calorie diet people lost 9 pounds, and then the standard American diet group lost approximately 12 pounds. So the ones on the worse diet, although probably us in this group, we understand that low fat does not mean healthy, right? I hope everyone knows that. So that could have had something to do with it as well. But both groups saw impressive drops in LDL, bad cholesterol, and their blood pressure. Okay, so the 5-2 fast diet. A recent study of 115 women divided into 3 groups. The first group ate a 1,500 calorie Mediterranean diet. The second group ate normally for 5 days and then a 1,650 calorie low carb diet for 2 non-consecutive days. And then the third group was just told, look, avoid carbs for 2 days with no other calorie restrictions. The results after 3 months, the women on the 2-day diets lost an average of 8.8 pounds, which is almost twice greater than the other group. Their insulin resistance was significantly improved. Obesity and insulin resistance are risk factors for breast cancer. So after 6 years of study, they concluded that cutting carbs 2 days a week gave the same benefits, possibly more, than consistent calorie restriction.
How about that?
Okay, so when you eat is just as important as what you eat. And this is that circadian code I'm talking about. So even in this book, even in the Fast Diet book, they reference Sachin Panda in his work. So there was 2 groups of identical mice. Okay, so they were identical. They had the same parents. They had the same genetic makeup. They had the same gut microbiome. And they were fed a high-fat, high-sugar diet. So it wasn't even a great, diet. Okay. Both groups of mice got the same amount of food, so the same calories, okay? Same diet, same amount. One group was restricted to an 8-hour feeding window, and the other group could eat whenever they wanted. After 100 days, the unrestricted group developed high cholesterol, high blood glucose, liver damage, and became overweight. The time-restricted eating, 8-hour window, mice weighed 28% less, had way less liver damage, and lower levels of chronic inflammation.
That should be a wow.
That's fascinating. They ate the same thing and they ate the same calories, but when they shrunk what they ate into an 8-hour window, it protected them from all the harmful effects. And they continued to follow them too. But so why does this work? Okay, so all the time you're eating, your insulin levels are elevated and your body is stuck in fat storing mode. It's only after a few hours of fasting does the body switch into fat burning mode. Okay, so they can't happen at the same time. Research also shows how fasting can improve mood and protect the brain from dementia and cognitive decline. And so there's another book that I reference here. It's called The End of Alzheimer's, and it's written by Dr. Dale Bredesen. And so he recommends, this whole protocol for reversing, and he says we can totally end Alzheimer's in this generation if we want to.
Yep.
Okay, so what, the 5-2 fast diet is essentially 5 days you eat normally. We would say, you want to make healthy choices. And then 2 days, the calorie restriction, which mimics fasting. So for a man, 600 calories or less, and for a woman, 500 calories or less.
Just 2 days a week.
That's it. 2 days a week, non-consecutive days.
Healthy choices in general.
I mean, we want to, but
Don't skip the fat.
Well, of course. Okay, all right. So the circadian code, all right? We've probably all heard about it, or familiar with it. Okay, so, or no, you haven't? You never heard of circadian rhythm? No? Okay, well, all right. There you go. Okay, so breakthroughs in sanitation and infectious disease in the past century has led to the most dramatic rise in longevity in any century in human history. However, living longer doesn't always mean living healthier, right? So the difference between lifespan and health span. In fact, we are now witnessing a rapid increase in chronic diseases of both the mind and the body, beginning in early childhood and stretching through old age. The cause? Our modern lifestyle is disrupting a deeply ingrained, primordial, and universal code to being healthy. Simply adjusting the timing of how we live and making easy lifestyle changes is the secret to restoring our rhythm and will surely be the next revolution in healthcare. So that's what he says. Okay, small changes, profound impact. The timing of our sleep, eating, working, learning, exercise, and the way we light up our homes will make a profound difference in every aspect of our health. In fact, the benefits can be far more effective and long-lasting than any medication or special diet. So just the timing, okay, and lighting. Okay. So 2017 Nobel Prize recognized this field, this circadian rhythm field, for its impact on health. Okay, so circa means around and diem means day. So circadian means around the day. Circadian rhythms are real biological processes that every plant, animal, and human exhibits over the course of a day. Okay, these rhythms are governed by internal circadian clocks. Each is programmed to turn on or off thousands of genes at different times of the day or night. Okay, so this is where epigenetics comes in, if you've ever heard the term epigenetics, okay? So we're all dealt a genetic hand, but through your lifestyle, you can alter how those genes express themselves, okay? So you are not shackled to your genes. You can affect them. And so this was actually on the cover of Time in 2010. And these genes influence every aspect of our health. Okay, so when our circadian rhythms and clocks are in sync, we're healthy. We get good sleep, we wake refreshed, we have energy, our guts working the way we want it to, etc. When it's disturbed for as little as a day or two, our clocks cannot send out the right messages to these genes, and our body and mind will not function as well. Now, my wife knows this firsthand with me when we travel to Canada, because we have to get up hours earlier, and we drive all day, and then we get there, and I get messed up. Right? It's not like huge, but I mean, I notice a definite difference, and it takes me a while to get back into sync.
But Canada is not overseas.
No, it's not overseas.
Yeah, that'd be really terrible for me.
Okay, so if disruption continues for weeks or months, we may succumb to all the types of infections and diseases ranging from insomnia to ADHD, depression and anxiety, migraine, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, dementia, and even cancer. Luckily, it's easy to get back in sync. It says we can optimize our clocks in just a few weeks, and by restoring our circadian rhythm, we can even reverse some of these diseases or accelerate cures. We're all shift workers now. Do you know what the shift worker means? You know, like those who work the night shift? So they have higher rates of gastrointestinal diseases, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, depression, and cancer. The number one cause of death and disability for active duty firefighters is not fire or accident. It's heart disease. The truth is we are all shift workers due to our modern lifestyle. And that's what Wim Hof says. Wim Hof says that we're not exposed to the cold anymore in these ranges of temperatures like our ancestors were, because we have, through our technology, we have created environments where we're actually out in the elements very, very short periods of time, and we keep ourselves in a temperature controlled environment all the time. And so there aren't these stresses our ancestors had, where they were traversing miles with just an animal skin. That's supposedly when we landed on the Pilgrims land on Plymouth Rock, when the Native Americans showed up, they were just wearing loincloths and stuff. They gave them a jacket, and they looked at the jacket I don't know. But I mean, that's pretty incredible. But again, our modern lifestyle is, we like it. It makes it comfortable, but it's kind of hurting us at the same time. So we have to make some changes.
That's why you are going to Canada. You are looking for the cold.
Yeah, exactly. The cold exposure. That's right. So there's this new term now called social jet lag. So this is when someone sleeps late and wakes up at least 2 hours later on the weekends. That's social jet lag. It's like they're crossing time zones, So 2017 World Sleep Congress, approximately 80% of adults have social jet lag. And there's also been a rise in the use of sleep medications as well as depression. So I read a statistic, the whole opioid epidemic with deaths and everything, but just behind that is antidepressants. Okay, so don't beat the clock. Don't try and beat the clock. Repeatedly disrupting your circadian clock can have adverse health consequences as every system in your body starts to malfunction. It so weakens the immune system that germs and bugs that don't usually cause trouble can upset your stomach or cause flu-like symptoms.
That's why people get sick and travel.
The rhythm of daily life. Okay, almost every aspect of our daily life is rhythmic. Your evening activities have a large effect on your circadian rhythm. So the most profound effects from this information tonight will be created by monitoring your life from 6 p.m. to midnight.
Interesting.
Okay, so the body's daily rhythms. Okay, so in the first thing in the morning, melatonin production declines, bowel movement likely, cortisol levels rise, we have better glucose regulation, better immune response, high alertness, our muscles are primed for exercise more in the later day, and our motor coordination peaks. But then, as the sun starts to go down, okay, our body cools down, melatonin levels begin to rise, stomach acid production peaks. That's like, again, last meal of the day, should be right there. Saliva production slows down, gut motility slows down, so this is why you shouldn't eat late at night. Growth hormone rises, gut lining and skin repair. Again, sleeping, this is when we do all our repair. Deep sleep, memory consolidation, and then again, the cycle starts over again. Our body temperature starts to rise. So that is, those are our body's functions that are tuned in to the natural cycle of day and night. And when we start messing with that, that's when, our internal clocks get all screwed up, and then that affects our health. Okay, so we need strong circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms optimize our biological functions. Every function in the body has a specific time because the body can't accomplish all it needs to do at once. Okay? Circadian clock is the internal timing system that interacts with the timing of light and food to produce our daily rhythms. Those are the triggers. Our job is to maintain the clock so we can live with optimal health. The best way to do this is to live in accordance with the circadian clock rather than push against it. Now, before I move on and I forget, I just want to say that I am not here to debate anything with you. I'm not going to get into an argument with you like, yeah, but my schedule, come on, this isn't realistic. I didn't write the book. I'm just presenting the information, right? There's always someone who wants to fight with you. Okay, I'm not going to debate it. I'm just presenting information. Take it or leave it. All right, the role of light. Okay, light for health is not the same as light for sight. The sun, we all are aware that we get sun on our skin and that produces vitamin D, but that has nothing to do with our internal clock. All the influence of light on our clock goes through our eyes, okay? And in 2002, they discovered a light-sensing protein called melanopsin, which entrains the daily sleep-wake cycle. These melanopsin, these sensors, are most sensitive to blue light.
That's very blue.
An emanating. So blue. Does everyone know what blue light is? We all have one. So blue light is this, and TVs and computer screens. This is blue light. So I just downloaded the app. You Apple users already have it. It's because of this guy's research. Your Apple phone.
Dr. Panda.
Yes, because of Dr. Panda.
Dim the lights on the phone.
Well, you have this like twilight mode on your Apple devices that automatically shuts off the blue light. And so that's why it kind of turns this like orangey, pinky glow. So it will not trigger the melanopsin in your, these light sensors.
Samsung has that too, but you have to select it.
Yes, so I downloaded the app on my phone. So mine is called Twilight, but there's lots of them. But absolutely. And another company came out with glasses, so blue light filtering glasses.
My boys have glasses, both of them. All of a sudden they wear glasses.
And they
I was like, what's
suddenly
wrong
don't
with you
have
guys?
headaches anymore.
There you go, right? So these blue light filtering glasses. Okay, so
How about LED lights? Are they blue light?
yeah, so
So this is killing us, right?
yeah. Screwing with our clocks. So when melanopsin is activated by blue light, it signals the brain that it's daytime regardless of what the actual time is, okay? An hour under blue light will make your clock reset as if it's morning.
Really?
That's what he says. That's what he
He's
says.
got a PhD.
Blue light sensors also directly or indirectly connect to brain regions that control depression, alertness, sleep, melatonin production, migraine pain, and headache. Which is pretty cool.
These lights are not killing you because you're turning them off at night when you are watching TV. So you are
Good
not
to
on
know.
not on a day light. You are getting ready.
We're lighting a candle.
Yeah, that's not enough. Yeah, so candles aren't enough, you know.
So candles are orange light, right?
Candles are fine. You're not going to disrupt your
So
clock
after
with
the sun
candles.
goes down, these go off if it's not
Yep.
special night, and the candles go on.
There you go.
All right.
I heard
So-
KYW this morning that blue light can also cause macular degeneration,
Yep.
especially when you're
I
out
heard
blue
that.
light
I
in the
heard
dark.
that too.
Like,
There you go.
Your cell phone at night.
Yeah. It's best just
Your eyes
to
need to rest.
put it
We
away.
were taught to have a candle near your computer because your eyes relax when they look from the computer to the candle. You'll feel the muscles in your eyes go softer. So just that simple shift.
Again, simple stuff. This
Simple
isn't.
stuff.
It's not complicated. Okay, so our modern lifestyle is to blame. We spend most of our time indoors. We turn on blue lights at night, which again activates the melanopsin, which disrupts our circadian rhythm, which reduces melatonin, which then leads to poor restorative sleep. Then we have in the morning, we have dimly lit offices or homes, which do not trigger the melanopsin effectively. So then we can't align our circadian clock to the day-night cycle, and then we get sleepy, depressed, anxious.
And all this boosts the economy for all those drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's the real point.
Yeah. So every organ has its own clock, okay? In every organ, thousands of genes are turned on or off at different times in a synchronized fashion. So nutrient pathways are circadian. Metabolism pathway is circadian. This is another fascinating thing. Your gut biome is circadian. You have like different bacteria at certain times of the day.
Where are they going at night?
They sleep.
Cellular maintenance is circadian. Repair and cell division is circadian. Again, at night when we're asleep. That's the repair mode. Cell communication. So our digestion is stronger in the morning than it is in the evening. And cell secretion are all circadian. The brain is the master clock. The cells located in the hypothalamus, which houses the command centers for hunger, satiety, which means you feel full, sleep, fluid balance, stress response, and more. So this kind of master clock is indirectly connected to all our glands, like the pituitary gland, which produces growth hormone, which again is at night while we're sleeping. The adrenal gland, which is our stress hormones. Our thyroid gland, which is energy, metabolism, body temperature. Our gonads, reproductive organs. Our pineal gland, which again produces melatonin for sleep. This is why in end-stage neurodegenerative diseases, people lose sense of time if those specific cells are degenerated. So this master clock receives information about light from the outside world and then shares it with the rest of the body. And when it's reset by blue light, it resets all the other organ clocks in the hypothalamus. Other clocks in the body, like the liver and the gut, are set by a combination of this hypothalamus signal and the timing of the foods we eat.
So it's good to get in a rhythm of even your meals.
Rhythm is everything. Yep. So I remember, I forget, did I hear from my parents or whatever? They said, your body thrives on regularity, right? And then we go, yeah. They were right. There's 3 core rhythms, okay? Sleep, nutrition, and activity are the 3 core rhythms. They are interrelated, and they're also under our control. So we can choose whether or not we want to be rhythmic or not. When one is thrown off, the others ultimately get upset, creating a downward spiral of poor health. Okay, so here it kind of shows this little, again, erratic lifestyle and aging. We have depression, brain disease, heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, fatty liver, diabetes, compromised muscle. But then if we get into rhythm, we get all the positive effects of it. So it's just lifestyle. And again, this is just showing like, when it's supposed to be night, we're inside turning the lights on, keeping us up. And then when it's day, we're making it dark. So we're completely just reversed of what it should be. So I actually, just in the past couple days, I stopped wearing my sunglasses when I get in the car. Because what am I doing? I'm walking out of my house. I'm putting my sunglasses on. What's that doing? That's stopping the light from getting in and like ingraining that clock. So he says he stopped doing it. He goes, I only wear sunglasses unless I'm in like travel for a long time or if I'm at the beach or something like that. But otherwise, we need that bright daylight. And daylight, even on a cloudy day, is way more light, like thousands of times brighter than we'll ever get inside. So it's really important to get outside during the day and get that light.
All the things you need to know you learn in kindergarten.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Recess.
Very
Let's
good.
go.
You're talking about them?
Yeah.
We forgot.
What's old is new. Yeah. Circadian disruption affects health over time. So short-term circadian rhythm disruption for anywhere 1 to 7 days can lead to sleepiness, insomnia, lack of focus, migraine, irritation, fatigue, moodiness, indigestion, constipation, muscle aches, stomach pain, bloated stomach, blood glucose rise, and susceptibility to infection. Chronic circadian rhythm disruption, whether it be weeks, months, or years, in combination with genetic predisposition and poor nutrition, leads to gut disease, immune disease, metabolic diseases, affective or mood diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, reproductive diseases, chronic inflammation, and various cancers. So the longer your circadian rhythm is out of sync, the greater the risk of developing a serious disease.
So really think twice about staying up late, looking at the computer.
Yeah.
You have to go to sleep, Doc.
What time?
10?
Okay, I'll give you what his ideal is. It should be with the day and night. Like so.
Oh, give me a break.
No, I'm serious. So he said our ancestors, this is how it was, right? For like thousands of years, this is how it was. They got up when it was light. Well, so ideal for him is
9 o'clock.
6 a.m., 6:30 I'm awake, 10:30 sleep. Now again, everyone's schedule is going to be slightly different, but you don't want to push it, too far because again, it's going against kind of a natural rhythm. But
So watching TV in the bedroom, bad idea, right?
yeah,
And watching TV and snacking, bad idea.
right.
Okay.
Right.
But you can do what you want.
Yeah. So again, this is just showing, I'm not going to read all these, but you can see, so this is what happens when circadian rhythms break down. And you can see this is a whole just laundry list of, disorders and diseases and conditions.
Sad, or is that
ADHD. Oh yeah, SAD, standard. Yeah, seasonal affective disorder.
There you go. There you go. All right.
Yep.
So you
When
can
you want to snack, you turn your back to the TV, so you are not watching.
and then your stomach shuts down. You should be asleep right now.
So when we eat affects our clocks. Just like the first light of day resets the brain clock, the first bite or sip of the day resets our organ clocks. Hunger is normal in the morning and digestion is strongest 8 to 10 hours from the first bite or sip. Erratic breakfast time confuses organs and compromises function. So this is where I'm not going to get into a debate with you, so don't start arguing with me. I'm just the messenger.
Whether you wake up and eat at 7 or you eat at noon, whenever you eat, you should eat at the same time.
I'll get to
Approximately.
that. It's better in the morning.
Better in the morning.
Better early versus later. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a blood glucose reaction to eating the same meal at different times of the day. So here's your segue.
Wow.
Okay, so
I love that.
Wow.
so the difference between eating in the morning and eating in the evening, the exact same meal.
Yeah, but it's just fasting, so you don't eat anything until the last peak. So you eat at that peak, you mean?
Well, they're just saying at different times of the day, having the same meal, but at different times of the day, you get different glucose responses.
So at night you get super high glucose.
Yeah, so this is why you should not eat at night.
So that's why I say eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper.
And again, like what they were saying is that it didn't really matter so much how much you ate, but as long as you kept it in that 8 to 12 hour window, okay?
Probably when the sun's up.
Right, so in the morning, our body is like, it's primed for, like the digestive juices start going. We're better able to digest stuff. We're primed for that. But later in the evening, so our melatonin levels start to rise because what? We're getting prepared for sleep. But if we start eating, then we're turning back on digestion, and so melatonin interferes with insulin.
Right.
So
Or turning off the sleeping.
yeah, well that's yeah. So
And
it's
this is why when you eat ice cream late at night, you're gonna burn out your nerves.
Mary,
Seriously.
you are in trouble.
And this is what a lot of people do. I did too.
so he said it's like because you're essentially your digestive system needs a break, right? Like so we put out the kitchen close sign, and then we like order up, let's go. You can't. There's no rest here. Let's go. And so it's like your digestive system needs time to repair. So like your gut lining, is a big deal. It's repairing at night, and if you start shoving food in there, then it's like, oh, I got to stop doing that. I got to do this.
It's replaced every 24 hours, right?
The gut lining, yeah, the especially like the mucosa, the mucus in there to protect you from like ulcers and stuff. And this is why a lot of people who eat later at night get like acid reflux and indigestion and stuff like that.
But my digestive system doesn't know that it needs a rest of time. I tell it.
Just reset it. You can reset it. Okay, activity and exercise. Muscles are more efficient during the day versus the night. All studies have come to the same conclusion. Physical activity improves sleep. It also helps elevate mood and relieve stress. It increases concentration, regardless of age.
And it burns off cortisol, which makes it easier to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect stuff. Okay, so breakfast. We are breaking the fast, okay? Most respondents, okay, so he's got this app where you can you take pictures of the food that you're eating and the time of day, and he tracks it on like this graph. And so most of the people said, I eat in a 12-hour window, when in actuality it was like 15 or more. So most respondents consumed less than a quarter of their total daily calories between 4 a.m. and noon, while they ate more than 30% of their daily intake at night. Okay? So they reported that they skipped breakfast, but in reality, they were just skipping a big meal in the morning. Instead, they were eating a small snack or just having coffee, which they did not consider a meal. However, our stomach does.
The coffee?
Anything except water, because the liver has to process it. According to him, I'm not saying it, he's saying it. Okay?
The coffee, even without sugar and without cream,
Correct.
is still food. I
Correct.
was thinking
According
of that.
to your stomach, yes.
Okay.
Anything other than water breaks the fast and starts the clock. So as soon as you take that first sip or that first bite, your clock
And tea,
is starting.
too, the tea,
Yep.
like green tea.
So water.
Yep. Anything but water.
Good. Everything else
Damn.
is food.
Okay, so time restricted eating or TRE. So I didn't know this. All of nutrition science is based on 2 experiments. Number 1, calorie restriction. You eat less, you lose weight. And then number 2, the quote unquote healthy diet, which is a balance of macronutrients versus high fat, high sugar. And there's like 11,000 studies in this number 2. But that's it. That's all of nutrition science. Since then, future studies with different macro and micronutrient ratios that have been done, but yet none of this research has proved conclusively that one type of food is best for everyone. This coincides with Weston A. Price's travels in research. So that was one of the groundbreaking, that's what put me on the path, is when I read Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon, and she heads up the Weston A. Price Foundation. Her and Mary Enig, who is like the guru of fats, they wrote this book. And it's like a lot of it's a cookbook, but a lot of it is just basic information that I think everyone should know. It was fascinating. And so Weston A. Price wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, where he literally spanned the globe and went to all these primitive cultures. And he just noticed what they were eating and what their, lifestyle was like. They were eating differently based on where they were in the globe, right? Because they didn't have, ships and all this. They didn't have grocery stores. They had what was there, right? And they all had healthy life, like into old age and healthy offspring and all good teeth and bone structure. And he said when he was in Africa, he said he had to look in 300 mouths before he found a single cavity. But it wasn't until trade with the West was set up and the white flour and the white sugar came in, and he said the very next generation had dental deformities, their jaw structure, but they were reproductive issues and, all this kind of stuff. So 2012 research, this Sachin Pandey asked a question.
What's the name of Weston A. Price's book again?
Nutrition and Physical Degeneration.
There you go.
In 2012, this Sachin Panda, based on his original research, right, with the 2 mice, time-restricted eating versus they could eat whenever they want, they asked, okay, well, how much of disease is due to poor diet and how much is due to random eating? And that's what led them to that research I referenced earlier. So they fed mice a high-fat, high-sugar diet. Both groups of mice were fed a high-fat, high-sugar diet. But one group was only allowed to eat it in an 8-hour window. The other group was allowed to eat whenever they wanted. And it turned out to be like 15 hours. Now, later on, they ran the same experiment, but with a 9-hour window, a 10-hour window, and a 12-hour window to see, what happens. And they found the similar results, similar benefits.
Does it get better with a smaller window?
So weight loss is maximized with an 8-hour window. But they said that, 12 hours, you still get a really good benefit, and they were protected from all these diseases. But the benefits were doubled with an 11-hour window, and then doubled again with a 10-hour window, all the way to an 8-hour window. So you do, but he does say that, just like with the 5-2 diet, that if you're someone who doesn't necessarily need to lose weight, then maybe you should fast 1 day a week, or maybe you should go with a 12-hour window because you're still going to get benefit, but you're not going to get the weight loss associated with it.
But you're not going to keep losing weight. You're going to go to your perfect weight and stop.
Most likely. I mean, they do mention that, at the end he says that, actually time-restricted eating can be a good transition, say, off of a 5-2 type of routine once you've reached your weight loss goals. So, okay. So they did a follow-up study combining calorie restriction with this clock research. This was fascinating too. The mice that were fed a low-calorie diet at bedtime, so it was a low-calorie diet, but it was given to them at when they should be going to bed, their bedtime. There was no weight loss benefit. But the mice that were fed a low-calorie diet at their waking time, remember mice are nocturnal, so it happened to be at night, but it was during they were getting up, when they're supposed to be awake, got the weight loss because it was aligned with their circadian rhythm. It's fascinating, again, because the whole digestion and sleep, it's a rhythm, it's a cycle. Now, Harvard scientists did similar human studies. So when individuals, they spread their calories out over a long period, they did not lose much weight. However, people who ate bigger meals during the day and refrained at night actually lost a substantial amount of weight. So when you eat is more important than what you eat, is basically what it says. Okay, so then there's frequently asked questions, okay? And again, there's a lot more in the book, so again, I suggest pick it up, read it. There's a lot more, that I could possibly cover here in the time. So some frequently asked questions. Is time-restricted eating for everyone? Yes. Irrespective of region, culture, or cuisine, our ancestors ate all their meals in a 10 to 12-hour window. Can I choose any 12 hours? Like you asked, and someone said, why skip breakfast, and I eat at noon or whatever. Any schedule's better than none, is what he says. But the most benefits are when you start earlier and you end earlier. at night, again, melatonin rises, which interferes with insulin. So rather than go like, okay, well, I'm going to start at, 10 a.m. and I'm going to go to 10 p.m. That'll be my window. It's better to go, say, 8 to 8 or 6 to 6.
So it might be why the glucose went higher. There was a competition with melatonin and insulin, so the glucose was allowed to rise more.
And again, it's just been based on the first bite, the clock starts, right? And that's when the stomach's getting the signal to like, okay, let's go, let's, start moving. But then towards later in the day, the digestion, like motility slows down, digestive juices go down.
Right. So many things.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. Can I combine time-restricted eating with other diets? And he says yes. He says they've actually seen excellent results combining an 8-hour time-restricted eating with a keto diet. And that's where my friend Mr. Anthony Travato over here with Tornado Nutrition, he's going to be doing a talk on the keto diet. So if there's someone who knows about it, it's him.
Potentially next.
When?
We don't
know yet, but
we'll pick a date very soon.
Maybe the end of this month.
Yeah, we might do two this month.
I'm not here.
And then the last question is, can I combine time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting, say like a 5-2 diet? And he says yes. Again, time-restricted eating, where you eat all your meals in an 8 to 12-hour window, can also be a great way to transition out of a 5-2 fasting diet program once you've achieved your weight loss goals.
Right?
Thank you.